How's it going, guys? It seems to me that in more and more as the days go on, the idea of sympathy and empathy are becoming abstract ideas. People understand the definitions of these things, but they fail to exemplify them. And one thing I think is kind of crucial in deciding where you stand is, do you believe people can change? Or do you believe they can't? If you believe people can change, then you have to be willing to adjust your thought process. If you believe people can change, then you have to be willing to acknowledge that people can learn from their mistakes, want to learn from their mistakes. And so you have to stop letting history be inflicted on somebody if they're showing a genuine desire to be better. It doesn't make any sense if you think that people can change, but you hold somebody's mistakes from long before against them. Because effectively what life is a series of mistakes we make. And the idea is to learn from them so as to not do them again. But once the mistakes are made, there's no undoing them. And some people will be like, well, if I just forget about things that have happened, then they could happen again. It's like, no. I mean, if somebody does something, makes a mistake, and then they continue to do things to make you believe that they didn't learn from that mistake and they don't care about learning from that mistake, that's one thing. But if someone is showing an actual attempt to change and be better than the version of themselves that made the mistake, then you need to meet that with understanding. The one thing, I don't feel like I'll ever live down my mistakes. My mistakes get held against me all the time. And sometimes, when people decide to evoke, the past, they do so with little provocation. Like somebody was going to come buy art for me. And, they said, oh, well, I don't have cash on me. Can I come back tomorrow? I said, yeah, sure. And the next day I received a text saying, I can't in good conscience buy art from you if I believe that the money is going to be used for drugs. Now, there was nothing about me that indicated I was on drugs. I didn't make any mention of using drugs. I didn't make any mention of needing money to buy drugs. I'm trying very hard to learn from my past, and it's irresponsible and it's fucking ignorant to evoke somebody's past in such a way, when there's no evidence, when there's no reason to do that. When you're holding someone's past against them needlessly, then you are part of the mechanism that makes people decide, what's the point of changing if I'm never going to live down my mistakes? What people need is understanding. What people need to do is to put themselves in the shoes of other people. When I was using, the one thing I had a surplus of was people who have no fucking idea about addiction telling me about addiction. And here I am, someone who's experienced it in such a way that, words almost don't complete the picture as to how horrific, I let it get. And so for people who have no idea about addiction, or little to no idea, these shallow ideas of addiction, they have notions about, who addicts are, that they got from TV or they got from movies, or they're using an example for someone they know. Every person deserves an individual approach. Like you shouldn't let somebody suffer for their mistakes if they're trying to be better, but you sure as fuck shouldn't let somebody suffer for somebody else's mistakes. And really, the thing is, if you have people in your life that are trying to be better despite their mistakes, the best way, the the best wisdom comes from the hardest mistakes. And if you have somebody in your life that is trying to be better, you don't want to push those people away. You want to bring them in close, because those people are few and far between these days. you know and people are very good at at making things about them. And sometimes things are just not going to be about you. you know but also, to those of you who have had similar problems, you've made mistakes. You cannot behave as though those mistakes did not happen. Otherwise, you are showing proof positive that you did not learn from them. And so what happens is, you have to be understanding, and you have to be willing to work with people. If you were a drug addict and you stole from somebody and they don't want you in their house or something because you stole from them, like, that is a real concern for them. And maybe you cleaned up and maybe you're not stealing anymore. But you cleaning up does not negate the fact that you did something to somebody. And it would be ridiculous of them to assume that you're not still trying to do that. You need to show people that you can be trusted. By that same token, there's a lot of people that go around in relationships and, they say, I've been hurt so many times, like, you have to earn trust. No, bullshit. You have to give trust, and you have to let people lose it. It is what it is. Otherwise you let somebody else suffer for the mistakes of somebody else. You know, you have to go into relationships with the ultimate trust. And yeah, chances are your trust will be broken. But in the occasions when your trust isn't broken, those moments are truly beautiful. You know, and think about what you're doing when you push away somebody who wants to learn. By only considering yourself, you end up costing yourself somebody of substance. The people that get hooked on drugs are usually people. The act of using drugs in itself is showing a desire to move forward. And I know that's hard to see for some people, but people who don't want to move forward, they end up putting a gun in their mouths, or they hang themselves or something. When somebody is using drugs, they're trying to patch over something that is crippling them, so they can move forward again. Using drugs is an attempt to get back to normal. And I've said in videos before, people are not addicted to drugs. They are addicted to the peace that they get from them. And it's not a great way to go about things. And I'm not saying that it is, but you have to see things for what they are. A lot of people, they see someone who's addicted to drugs and they get mad. That's the wrong way to go about it. They already have people that are mad at them. Their lives are already bad if they're using drugs. They need someone to break the cycle and listen, understand. And if you're constantly cutting that person off and, oh, I know you're just making excuses, you owe everyone a chance to, if you're going to sit down and you're going to take the role of somebody who wants to help someone, then you have to do it from a place of understanding. You have to understand what they're thinking, what they're going through. You can't just say, I'm not listening to what you say because this is what I think. You know, you have to listen to what they say. You have to go along. You have to give them trust. You know, it's just how it is. And I would implore you guys to be more trusting with people, because the thing, sometimes you lose something truly amazing when you let someone walk out of your life. You know, like, you know, I hate to keep harping on this, but you know, when I think back to my marriage, I I had lived so long as a self-centered wrecking ball, and then to come up with this mindset, like, one day I wanted to be better, and I wanted to not do so much to, like, wreck things. And so to go into something where you have no idea how to move forward in that way. You don't know how to, when you've lived a certain way, when you've lived a selfish life and then you decide you don't want to be selfish anymore, you don't have the tools to do that because you've been selfish for so long. And so you interpret from the things around you, and you deal with things as they come, and you won't always deal with them in ways that are correct. Not all information is perceived correctly, but where the value is is when people show a genuine desire to be better. And when my wife left, she left a self-centered person who was trying to be selfless, not doing so well at it, but trying. And through all the shit that's happened since then, I have become a completely different human being. And so, my ex-wife's desire to keep me out of her life because of the sins of my past has robbed her of the person I am now, that has seen that losing her was hard, and it was deserving of me looking at the situation, me figuring out why I did the things I did, what caused me to do the things I did, and then how do I improve? How do I become better than the things I did? And so when there's so few people that are trying to be better, to cast aside somebody who is effectively trying to learn from their mistakes, I mean, casting somebody aside like that is the exact thing, like I said before. The reason people decide not to change is because they say, oh, well, I've already made these mistakes. I'll never live them down. And for a lot of people, that's the truth. They can try to do better, and they try to do better. And I try to be understanding. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I try to see their sides of arguments. And no matter how understanding I am, how selfless I am, how charitable I am, the sins of my past constantly come up to bite me in the ass. So you can see how people are almost justified in their desire to just continue on doing what they're doing without changing, because if you're going to suffer for your past sins, then there's really no point to being better, because the outcome is always the same. And so, um, that's ultimately, like I said, why I forgive my ex-wife, because it's truly sad to me that she was so willing to cast aside somebody who was so ready to put their happiness aside and make their life about her happiness. That is so fucking rare in this world. It is so rare, especially for someone like me, someone who was self-centered for so long. Like when I met her, I was fucking baffled. I was like, what? What is this feeling I have where I am willing to put myself through misery so she can be happy? That's fucking ridiculous. Like it didn't make any sense to me, but you know, that was always the mindset. And the execution is where I fucked up because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to properly. I got comfortable. And when you are in a situation where you are constantly unsure and then things appear to be good, you just kind of want to freeze frame those things, and hope that you can keep up on the path you're on and things will be okay. But that's not how things work. And one thing that is important is, I feel it's important that, you can. A lot of people say, oh, well, this person didn't do this, they didn't do that, they didn't care, things like that. And in the case of my ex-wife, you know, she made all these assumptions about where my intent was, where my mind was at, and got it wrong. And it's a damn shame because, she chose to look past the things that I was doing to show how much I loved her, how much I cared about her, how much I was willing to put myself in agony for her happiness. And it's one thing to think that somebody doesn't bring something to the table. It's another for them to actually not bring something to the table. You can think that somebody is just not caring, but whether or not you think, if you can think that, but that doesn't make it so, just thinking it, you know? And in the long run, she cost herself something that, you know, like, mark my words, in time, because she's a very smart girl, she's an amazing person, but in time, she will do what we all do in our own time, and that is eventually we start to put values to the things that we have. And eventually, like, the shallow things that we want and we ask of the universe are shown for what they are, hollow. And there are so many people across the globe that they get married and they think they have everything, and then they start to wonder about the value. Like this person, I'm married to this person, they say they love me, but do they love me? Do they love me enough to inflict pain on themselves to bring me happiness? And the answer is almost exclusively no. you know and so when the universe gives you something like unconditional love from somebody who, I mean, even as you tear them down, as you say horrible things to them, they still love you and they want to do better. If you think that you don't have anything, if you think that you deserve better than that, it is proof positive. It is inarguable evidence that you have no idea what it is you actually have. Because at the end of the day, on a long enough timeline, everyone will put that valuation to things in their life. And when it comes to the end of the road, you have to ask yourself, do you want the appearance of happiness, or do you want happiness? Because that's what a lot of people end up throwing away happiness for the appearance of happiness. People think that if they can minimize struggling and pain in their life, their lives will be easier. That's fucking horseshit. The way you move through life is by making mistakes. There will be ups, there will be downs. You learn from the downs so that the ups are higher. Sometimes the lows are very low, but when you learn from those things, the the wisdom that it brings you matches the depths with a high. And those things are invaluable, and the things that I've learned since my wife left, I wouldn't trade for anything. you know I've learned so much about myself. I've learned so much about people. I've learned so much about, you know it's so easy to get mad at people, but when you put yourself in their shoes and you feel their justification, only then should you approach resolution. Because nobody is walking around thinking they're wrong about feeling like they've been betrayed. Nobody's thinking that they're wrong. They feel betrayed because they feel betrayed. That's what it is. So if you feel you didn't betray somebody or you didn't hurt somebody, you need to look at it from their perspective. And then once you see their perspective, you get a very good idea of how to remedy that situation. And it only comes from understanding that person, not the situation as a general, not as an abstract. So, to me, it's sad that my ex-wife was given something that so many people are searching for, and because she wasn't in a place to understand the value, she assumed there wasn't. And I know that will hopefully that will inform her decisions before, like, at some point down the road, and she doesn't push away somebody else. If she finds somebody else that loves her to that degree, hopefully she doesn't push them away. And I hope that for her, because I'm a compassionate human being, even though, she kind of, well, not kind of, even though she, labeled me as worthless and cast me aside. I know she did that because of a lack of understanding, a lack of vision. And I hope she gains that vision before she casts someone else aside that could love her in that way. And, that's hard. It's hard to put yourself in a position where you want the best for somebody that couldn't see the best in you. But that's actually what being a decent human being is. It's wanting something better for other people despite things not working out well for you. Very little in life is reciprocal. If you're going to be charitable, but don't be looking for accolades. If you're going to help somebody, help them, but don't stand around patting yourself on the back. And if you have someone that loves you a great deal, you owe it to them and yourself to truly understand what's there before you arrogantly assume that it's nothing. When I finally decide that I'm ready for another relationship, the things that I've learned since losing my wife will be invaluable. So that's it. Just something to think about. Don't subscribe. Just be good to one another. It's not hard, for fuck's sakes.